You've got a nice place here for you. Can't help it, I guess living here with you wouldn't be too bad. This was declared at the doorstep by Mom, my ex-husband's mother, who we were supposed to have parted ways with long ago. Mary, my mother-in-law, always smiles and acts friendly, but she's self-centered to the core, ignoring my ill health and exploiting me for cooking and cleaning. Raised by Mary, my ex-husband also believed the world revolved around him, which was unbearable for me, leading to our divorce. Despite moving to a place they shouldn't know about, why are they standing right in front of me? Then, I was faced with a shocking truth. My name is Grace. I've been working hard in the sales department for 6 years since joining the company, and recently, I've been trusted enough to be appointed as a project leader. Focused too much on work, my salary and bonuses steadily accumulated. I found joy in achieving results and being appreciated, and I had no interest in wasteful spending like shopping sprees, so my savings just kept growing. I had a comfortable life with a sense of security for the future, but one encounter changed everything. There was a high school reunion, and there I reconnected with a man named Robert. We didn't talk much in school, but that day, perhaps due to our companies doing business together, we struck up a conversation. Robert worked in legal affairs for a well-known company. Our conversation expanded from work to mentoring juniors and then to each other's lives, and after the reunion, we quickly became close enough to make plans to meet again. Eventually, we started dating, and within a year, we decided to get married. The wedding was small but held in a chapel, and we were blessed by family and friends, but that happiness was short-lived. I came to learn a shocking truth. One day, I fell ill. My husband was worried about me bedridden, but soon, a call came from Mary. Yes, hello, Mom. No, it's okay. Just that Grace is feeling a bit under the weather. I overheard the conversation between my husband and Mary from the hallway, but soon, I felt an uneasy feeling. Apparently, Mary had called before deciding to visit. Of course, I thought I would refuse. It wasn't that I couldn't get up, but wanting to rest without any trouble was natural. However, my husband complied with Mary's request and accepted her visit. Got it, we'll be waiting. I'll wake Grace up soon. Hearing this, I was puzzled. Why would he allow her to visit when his wife was ill? And even saying he would wake me up. Amidst my surprise and questions, my husband returned as if it was the most natural thing. Mom says she's nearby and wants to stop by for a bit. She says it'll be just for a little while, so it'd be rude to turn her away. Grace, you should get up too. Just showing your face will be fine. It's unthinkable for Mary to come over with his wife still in bed. After all, I hadn't even finished cleaning the living room, and the dishes that are usually put away were still in the sink. I realized my husband was just looking worried and not actually doing any of the housework in my place. I pushed myself, despite feeling unwell, to rush through cleaning and getting ready in the hour before Mary arrived. All the while, my husband didn't lift a finger to help, nor did he seem sorry about it. When Mary arrived, my husband greeted her with joy, and I was made to serve coffee and set the table, with no consideration for my condition. Their conversation was strange. It revolved around my husband and Mary, leaving me feeling left out as I suppressed my headache and chills. In the end, Mary stayed until dinner. I cooked dinner trying not to show my irritation, and after Mary finally left, I collapsed into bed and fell asleep. Originally, my husband always valued Mary and tended to prioritize her wishes. He would say, "It's lonely living apart." And he would choose gifts for her every season and often visit the in-laws' house. I thought it was filial piety, but gradually I realized that he was prioritizing Mary above all else. This attitude became excessive, and just 6 months into our marriage, he completely disregarded me, placing Mary first. Robert was a classic mama's boy. Comparing my cooking with Mary's, outings were naturally to the in-laws' house, and Mary, far from minding, seemed delighted by her son's attentions. I had intended for us to build a happy marriage, but before I knew it, Mary's presence always loomed between us. There was a reason Mary was so indulgent with her son, Robert. It was her spending habit. Not just shopping with friends or outings, but expensive hobbies like travel and limited edition brands. And Mary would repeatedly ask my husband for money because of it. This behavior spilled over to me without any sign of remorse. I was appalled by requests I'd never received even from my own parents. Raised by parents who were strict about not borrowing or lending money, I was shocked by Mary's attitude of seeing such borrowing as normal. Though I never gave in, my husband would easily hand over money whenever asked. That's why Mary doted on her son so much. Mom's in trouble, so it's only natural to help her out a bit, right? That was my husband's argument whenever I brought it up. Before I knew it, transactions I wasn't aware of started happening behind my back, straining our finances to the point where I pleaded, "Just don't hide it from me anymore. I won't blame you." If I showed my face at the in-laws' house, to Mary, I was just a free housekeeper. Used as she pleased in her large house, I was made to do everything from cleaning and cooking to gardening and window washing, all for my husband's sake, without complaint. It seemed like Mary enjoyed making use of me, somewhere deep down. My husband, oblivious to these circumstances, naturally didn't help me, instead truly believing Mary's treatment was making me a good wife, thinking, "Mom is really incredible." When I pushed back against Mary, Robert said something unbelievable, thinking he was helping. "Grace is just embarrassed because it seems like her own mom couldn't take much care of her, so she's acting like she has a real mom now." Indeed, my parents ran an old-fashioned restaurant and were busy working every day. But I never resented my mom. Despite it being normal to have their only daughter help with the customers, my parents let me play and pursue hobbies. Their motto was, "A child is not a tool to be worked without pay." A stark contrast to Mary. I finally stood up to my husband. To protect both myself and my parents, who cried tears of joy at our wedding. "What your mom is doing is wrong. Just because I'm your wife doesn't mean I should be exploited, and I hate cleaning your parents' house. I want you to leave me alone." However, what came back from my husband was filled with anger. "How can you say such terrible things about my mom? Thanks to her, you're able to be a proper wife. Don't make mom upset without even thanking her. Moreover, I'll divorce a terrible wife like you who says such things." He even went so far as to print out a divorce application form from the City Hall's website, fill it in, and show it to me. He signed it firmly and thrust it at me. "How about this? I'm serious. Unless you apologize to me and Mom, that is." He was deeply rooted in old-fashioned values. A wife's position was below her husband and Mary, and she had to obey everything they said. My rebellion confused and enraged him. He thought threatening divorce would make a wife cry and apologize. But I was convinced this marriage was no longer happy and wouldn't improve. My husband said, "Think carefully while I'm on a business trip," and left the next day with the divorce application on the table. I saw this as an opportunity and immediately filled in my name. I rushed to the City Hall and quickly completed the procedures. I took leave from work and settled everything I could in his absence. The notification of the divorce acceptance and my husband's return home were almost simultaneous. When I handed him the envelope from the City Hall and told him I had filed the divorce papers, he opened his mouth in shock, then turned red with a look of disbelief. "Do you really want to be that stubborn? Filing for divorce isn't something you do lightly. You're going too far just because you want to make us suffer. In his mind, I was just a capricious woman acting out of rebellion. I decided not to resist and played along with his reaction. After all, you've been ignoring me, having fun with Mom. I'm fed up with having to stay silent. Why am I always the odd one out? My exaggerated pouting struck a chord with my husband. He loved it when a woman seemed to be depending on him, even if it was a bit unreasonable. Perhaps my act seemed quite convincing, like that of an actress. Completely taken in, my husband happily agreed to a favorable distribution of property for me. He was willing to indulge my stubbornness until I was satisfied. He believed that once I was content, we could remarry and return to our normal lives. However, I had absolutely no feelings left for my husband. I divorced him to value myself, and there was no going back to life with him. After finalizing the tedious process of property distribution in the divorce, I started looking for a new place to live. I fell in love at first sight with a convenient high-rise condo close to work and decided to buy it, seeing it as a fresh start in my life. I lived freely, handling my daily work. One day, unexpectedly, my ex-husband and Mary showed up at my condo. I hadn't given them my address. Bewildered and wary, Mary made a scene at the entrance, calling my name incessantly. Not wanting to bother the other residents, I reluctantly met them at the door. "How did you find this place?" "Oh, a detective. We were worried and Mom suggested we check on you." My ex-husband responded as if it were the most natural thing. Even though our legal ties were cut, the fact they hired a detective without my knowledge sent chills down my spine. Stunned, I could only think about how to get them out, while Mary, despite her age, behaved with youthful exuberance. She tried to peek inside my home, stretching her neck and crouching, doing as she pleased. Just as I was about to reprimand her, she blurted out something unexpected. "It's not as shabby as I thought. Nice place you've got here. I wouldn't mind living here with you." "Excuse me?" I was dumbfounded, never expecting her to propose living together, and her smile seemed creepy. Confused by her suggestion, I pondered how to respond. My ex-husband, with a smile, said, "Of course, that would be best," agreeing as if it was the most obvious thing. "That's a great idea, isn't it? It must be lonely for Grace to live here all by herself, right? That's why I brought Mom today. We'll forget your attitude ever happened. We forgive you," he proceeded as if it was all decided. They both looked at me with expectation, clearly disregarding my will. It was evident that my words never truly reached them. "Absolutely not. I refuse. Please leave immediately and never forgive me, that's fine. Just don't come back." With a clear and unexpected response, my ex-husband was shocked. "What, really? Are you serious? Don't say that. Robert came here for you." Probably not the reaction he was expecting. Both were unmistakably shocked by my refusal. In his mind, I was still the wife stubbornly causing trouble. He began to take a condescending attitude, implying he was doing me a favor by forgiving me. "If you keep this up, you'll be lonely forever without me or Mom, you know? That's fine. Please leave now. You are not welcome in my home. Do not come here again. Our relationship is over." He distorted the situation to suit himself, not attempting to understand my words. Despite my firm refusal, he still believed I was being too stubborn. While mocking my words, he tried to push past me into the house. Pushed by my ex-husband, a man, I stumbled and fell in the hallway, unintentionally raising my voice, which led a neighbor to open their door. as my ex-husband and Mary hurriedly tried to enter. The neighbor, seeing my distress, went to call for help after I pleaded. "Please call the police." "What are you saying?" To me, it was a clear case of trespassing. Perhaps because there were 2 calls from the same location, the police car arrived swiftly. My neighbor, in an effort to protect me from my ex-husband, kindly let me into their entrance and locked the door. Outside, my ex-husband and Mary were banging on the door and raising their voices in the corridor, venting their frustration at me. "It's different. I'm her husband. I came to visit my wife. Hey, don't touch Mom. Grace, say something. You forced us to find out your address because you didn't tell us. You know, not only did you tarnish Robert's career, but treating me like this is the lowest. Come out and apologize." Their loud voices were tremendous. Because it was a holiday, and many residents were home, a crowd of onlookers had gathered to see the commotion. Fortunately, despite being new to the condo complex, I had made a good impression by attending community gatherings and was known for being thoughtful despite my youth. Even with the commotion caused by my ex-husband's assault, no one was annoyed. Instead, they sympathized with me. Based on the testimonies of myself, the neighbor, and other residents, my ex-husband and Mary were taken away by the police for trespassing. Despite the inconvenience, the neighbor mentioned, "I work in legal affairs," and even referred me to a knowledgeable lawyer specializing in stalking cases. Ironically, my ex-husband worked in legal affairs but seemed utterly oblivious to the laws he was breaking. Likely, this unawareness would continue. And my prediction came true in an unexpected way. It started with a message from a mutual female friend from high school. She claimed to have seen my ex-husband walking happily with a young child. This was just a few months after the unwelcome visit. Could it be that my ex-husband, who had intentions of reconciling, had found a new partner? While it was his prerogative and none of my business, I doubted Mary would accept a relationship involving a woman with a child and a history of divorce. Having already consulted a lawyer, I requested an investigation to uncover his background. A reputable detective, through the law firm, conducted the investigation on my ex-husband. The shocking revelation was that he had been cheating on me even before our divorce. Though my feelings for him had long vanished, learning of his betrayal made me feel doubly, even triply, betrayed, disturbing my peace. My ex-husband's world was twisted to suit his convenience. In his hierarchy, Mary was at the top, and all women were below him, including me, deemed inferior and deserving of scorn and disdain. This hierarchical consciousness explained his inconsistent behavior. Cheating while married, believing reconciliation with an ex-wife was natural, and continuing the affair throughout it all were logically consistent in his mind. Reading through the investigation report left me in disbelief. It seemed my ex-husband had no intention of marrying his affair partner, yet he had hinted at a future together, keeping her hopes up and their relationship intact. And my fears were confirmed. The young child seen with my ex-husband was indeed his, born to his mistress. He had led a double life, with a child born around the same time as my marriage. Learning about this complex situation made me feel nauseous. Luckily, having already consulted with a lawyer, I was able to shift focus to seeking compensation for adultery immediately after receiving the report. Even after divorce, if adultery is discovered within 3 years, a lawsuit can be filed. Over time, I stopped letting the situation hurt me and mechanically moved forward with the lawsuit. I also sued the mistress for compensation for her part in the infidelity. The mistress, upon everything coming to light and becoming furious, especially after finding out my ex-husband hadn't given up on reconciling with me despite hinting at marriage with her, accused him of marriage fraud. However, mere implications of marriage were not enough for legal action. Though she probably had to give up on that front, the situation took a turn. When it was discovered that he had taken a large sum of money from her under the pretext of wedding expenses. That money went to Mary, whose spending knew no bounds, and the demands escalated. To appease Mary, upset over our disputes, my ex-husband had booked a luxurious cruise and planned an overseas trip for her. Using the money for that payment, the mistress latched onto this, managing to file a case. My ex-husband faced compensation claims from us, child support payments, and fraud charges, quickly depleting his savings. Having borrowed heavily from Mary, he had little to begin with. The in-laws' impressive home was seized, but the debt only grew. I received the compensation, cutting ties with my ex-husband, but his situation with the mistress was different. Given they had a child. Child support payments soon fell behind, and the mistress is furious. Stormed his workplace, exposing all his wrongdoings. Despite working in legal affairs, his repeated troubles with women, and the ongoing fraud case, he had kept these hidden from his employer. The secrecy and his actions drastically worsened his reputation at work. His assignments were reassigned, he was sidelined to a less significant position, and the bad rumors never faded. The gossip, all based on truth, overwhelmed him, leading to his resignation. Finding a new job in the same industry was impossible as his conviction for fraud was well known. And with a criminal record, he couldn't afford to be picky about work. He now juggles multiple physically demanding part-time jobs, struggling to make ends meet for compensation and child support. Mary's escape pushed him into despair. Seeing her son sued, jobless, and burdened with debt, she vanished to avoid getting involved. However, Mary couldn't curb her spending habits either and ended up with a significant amount of debt herself. Without a son to turn to for money anymore, her continuation of buying luxury brands and indulging in lavish meals only made her debt swell. My ex-husband now lives a lonely life in a cramped apartment where he can directly hear the neighbors' voices. Adding to his miserable situation, a couple with a volatile relationship recently moved in next door, causing frequent outbursts of shouting from their fights to echo around him. I am still deeply involved in my work as a sales representative. I've tackled numerous new projects, achieving groundbreaking results each time. Having shifted to a life on my own, I've also found more time to study. Thanks to my expertise, I've gained the trust of clients, significantly boosting the company's sales. I'm not just seen as a potential female executive, but as a candidate for even higher positions, filled with anticipation. Of course, I plan to work hard and contribute to my company. It's my life, after all. I should spend it on what I love, living a life I can be proud of, following the path I've chosen. There are no seats for the poor. Standing as if blocking the path between the bride and groom, the bride's mother, Susanna, stood. The bride, Sharon, seemed puzzled by her mother's actions. We felt the same. I exchanged glances with my son, Parker. Today is Parker and Sharon's wedding ceremony. It's supposed to be their big day, yet somehow, Susanna is dominating the scene. I looked at Susanna. She looked down on Parker and me completely. I see. Then, it can't be helped. Shall we go home? Yeah. We decided to leave the venue. I could hear Sharon seemingly pleading with her. Susanna doesn't think she's in the wrong. She thinks it's our fault, being poor and from a single-parent family. But I disagree. What's so sinful about being a single-parent family? And what's inferior about it? I'll show Susanna the seriousness of a mother who raised her son on her own. My name is Diana, 50 years old. I was blessed with my only son, Parker, when I was 25. However, my husband, Carter, met with a traffic accident shortly after Parker was born and passed away. For the past 25 years, I've raised and supported him. I didn't remarry. I worked tirelessly in part-time jobs. All that hard work was about to be rewarded. I've got a girlfriend. I want her to meet you. How much that saved me. But Parker's engagement brought new turmoil to our home. What's Parker's annual income? The first words were not a greeting but a question. It was a luxurious mansion. As I was amazed by the surprisingly comfortable chairs, Parker's fiancée, Sharon, and her mother, Susanna, appeared. As Parker hesitated to reveal his income, Susanna snorted arrogantly. Is that all? Mom! Please stop! Sharon frowned. I must have had a similar expression. My honest opinion was that Susanna was rude. Thank you for coming today, Sharon said, trying to smooth things over. I've made tea with my favorite brand. Don't bother. These people wouldn't know the difference anyway. Mom. Sharon looked hurt. Parker, sitting opposite Sharon, said, Maybe I can't tell the difference in taste, but I want to hear what she wants to say. Parker, thank you. Finally, a smile appeared on her face. Susanna watched the exchange between the two with a look of annoyance. She doesn't seem to approve of their relationship. May I have a moment? What is it? I was beckoned by Susanna to another room. Apparently, she didn't want to cause Sharon any more discomfort. That meant the upcoming conversation was bound to be pointless. What nerve! Pardon? Your son. How dare he propose to my daughter with such a low income? Susanna raised her voice hysterically. I was speechless. Parker graduated from a fairly well-known university, and his job is not bad. And he met Sharon at his workplace. Meaning, in terms of income, they are not inferior. Yet, she unilaterally treats him as the bad guy. The heir to this house is her brother. So, she will eventually marry and leave this house. So, that's your dissatisfaction? Of course! Her face turned red with excitement. I had a detective check. You are a single-parent family. And what of it? I tilted my head. I've never felt inferior for being a single-parent family. Sure, there were days when I came home late. Those times, I might have made Parker feel lonely. But as a result, he grew up to be a fine person. I'll protect Mom for all the hardships we've faced. I'll never forget him saying that on his 18th birthday. True to his word, he has been striving. He went to university on a scholarship, always keeping his grades at the top. After graduating, he got a job at his current company. He's my pride and joy. I couldn't just stand by when someone spoke ill of Parker. Excuse me, but you must have irresponsibly had a child and then been abandoned by the man. How despicable. You're the one with a terrible imagination, I said, my fist trembling. Susanna frowned. What did you say? How can you only imagine such vulgar things? What's in your head is much worse. I won't allow any more insults to my wife. A low, growling voice sounded. Looking up, an elderly man was standing at the entrance of the room, glaring at us. Carl! Susanna cried out and ran to the man. He embraced Susanna with a sloppy smile. It seems this man is Susanna's husband, Carl. Susanna wore a triumphant smile. She seems to believe that being married somehow makes her superior. Listen, Carl. Yes, I understand. Carl, who had been speaking to his wife in a saccharine tone, suddenly changed his expression and glared at us. If you continue to insult my wife, I will have to call a lawyer. It was you who started criticizing my son unilaterally. I appealed. But it was useless. Carl, smitten with his wife, saw me as an enemy. So, someone like you is going to be part of my daughter's family. Sharon has poor judgment in people. Yes, indeed. The couple looked down on Parker and me together. As I was at a loss for words, footsteps could be heard. Stop it, both of you. Sharon. I thought it was strange that you suddenly disappeared, so I came looking for you. Parker said with a voice trying to suppress his anger. Sharon, I'm sorry. We're going to leave now. Parker. Sharon looked down, seeming lonely. Parker momentarily made a face as if he was about to linger, but then he quickly changed his expression. Let's go, Mom. Yes. Parker took my hand and started walking. Susanna's voice was thrown at our backs. Don't ever come back to our house again. As if we would, I thought. Sharon did nothing wrong. Rather, it was sad that she was caught between her parents and us. I just couldn't forgive her parents. What should I do? Is it okay to just watch over their relationship? Hey, Parker. I have no intention of breaking up with her. Parker said, seemingly sensing my feelings. His eyes looked down, filled with apology. I'm really in love with her. So. With those words and expressions, I made up my mind. I'll support you too. Mom. He must have thought I would oppose it. Parker smiled, relieved. And his smile made me smile too. I've been quietly watching over their relationship. Since then, we haven't met her parents. Sharon seems to avoid the topic, and when she comes to our house, she talks about other things. Naturally, Parker leads the conversation. He makes sure not to immerse themselves in their own world, always including me in their talks. I'm very grateful for that. Mom, about the venue. The venue? What about it? I tilted my head, and the two exchanged looks. Mom, get it together. We just talked about it. About our wedding ceremony. The wedding ceremony! I exclaimed foolishly. So, you're finally getting married. Although our parents are against it, it's our life. Sharon seemed complicated, but determination was at the root of it. Sharon had chosen to walk through life with Parker. As a mother, could there be anything more gratifying? I think highly of Sharon. If she can support Parker as his wife, there's nothing more reassuring. I was teary-eyed. Parker noticed and panicked. Mom. Sorry, I know it's too early to cry, but... I hastily wiped away my tears. Sharon offered me a handkerchief. A white handkerchief with scattered light blue clovers. Diana. Thank you. I was happy. Having such a kind son and his bride by my side. But, this feeling of happiness was cruelly shattered. The nightmare began at the wedding ceremony venue. Oh? I stopped in confusion. I couldn't find my seat anywhere in the venue. I walked around the venue to check, but still, there was no seat for me. Perhaps it was a mistake by the staff. Thinking this, I approached a staff member. Excuse me. Are you still here? The response came not from a staff member but from Susanna. She stood with her arms crossed, laughing unreservedly. Shouldn't you take a hint by now? This marriage is very important to our family. Susanna said with a voice that looked down on me. Indeed, Susanna had arranged the entire ceremony. All of Sharon's preferences were rejected, and Parker's opinions were ignored. Mom, wait. Sharon and Parker approached, looking concerned. Susanna stepped between them. Standing protectively like a mother shielding her children, blocking the bride and groom. And then she said those words. There are no seats for the poor. Ah, I see. So, there was never a seat for me from the beginning. Understanding this, I was filled with a sense of emptiness. Shall we go home? Yeah. Parker took my hand and we started to leave. Sharon seemed to be pleading with her mother. But Susanna remained unfazed. Thus, the nightmare of a wedding ceremony ended. As we got into the car, Parker received a call on his mobile phone. It was from Sharon. Are you two okay? Yeah, sorry for leaving you alone there. It's not your fault. It's my parents' fault. Her voice was clearly dejected. Parker must have wanted to stay by her side. I lifted my face and said, "Stay with Sharon." But I can go home alone. I tried to remember how to smile. But my expression was stiff. Sorry. After hesitating, Parker went back to the venue. Driving home, I wondered, what's so wrong with being a single-parent family? Susanna had mentioned hiring a detective. If so, she didn't understand anything about him at all. But maybe that's for the best. I realized. Then what I was about to do. It's clear. I will give that hateful woman what she deserves. I have all the cards in hand. Susanna must have only paid attention to what was convenient for her. So she hadn't noticed. I returned home and waited for him. Parker came back with Sharon. I'm sorry about my parents. It's okay. I had regained my calm demeanor. The two seemed relieved. Looking at each other with reassurance, I said, I'll contact Walker. Eh? Parker's smile faded. Sharon looked puzzled. What's wrong? Walker is my grandfather. He's the president of the Woodward Company. Such. Sharon seemed to understand the situation. She spoke in a flustered manner. Is there no other way? We've reached our limit, I said in a low, moaning voice. Walker promised me when Carter passed away. He said if there was ever any trouble, he would definitely help. That's right. The day Carter was in an accident and never returned. Do you want us to take Parker in? It must be hard for a woman alone. Walker, Parker's grandfather, my father-in-law, had offered. But I had shaken my head. I will raise him by myself. So be it. Walker had promised. The moment to fulfill that promise had finally arrived. Dad was supposed to be the successor of the company. Parker said, looking down. That you were the grandson of the president. I kept quiet because I didn't want to be judged by Grandpa's prestige. I understand that, but I wished you had told me. Sharon's voice had completely fallen. It's not surprising. The Woodward Company is a globally renowned corporation. Having someone with such a company as their backing, Susanna has made an enemy. They're finished. The retaliation began immediately. Our business partners are withdrawing one after another, it seems. So, I nodded without surprise. Since then, Sharon had returned home only once to collect her belongings and hadn't returned to her parents' house. She's essentially living at our house now, helping with household chores wherever she can. But the look on her back is far from that of a blissful new bride. Right now, she is caught between her family and her marriage. It must be hard for her. Parker is worried about her exhausted state. He buys her favorite sweets on his way home from work and listens to her feelings now and then. If this continues, my family will be left homeless. There's nothing we can do about it. I sighed back at the tearful Sharon. Walker accepted me, someone who didn't match his family's social status or education, as his son's wife. It was a testament to his trust and love for his child, who had made his own choice. That is. She hesitated. Her family condemned her for being from a single-parent home, treating it as a fault. They looked down on Parker for not being suitable for their family. But what is the reality? Such. That poor-looking man is the grandson of a big company's president? Impossible! Shouldn't you apologize now? Don't say stupid things. The conversation between her parents that Sharon overheard when she went home to collect her things was just like that. However, since that was the only time she went back, what her parents talked about after is unknown. My mom isn't the type to apologize to anyone. Indeed. Some people only feel fulfilled by looking down on others. Such petty people. And also pitiable. What if you suggest apologizing to your family? It's impossible. Or rather, it would be pointless. Doing that would only make my mom more stubborn. What a troublesome person! He was frustrated. Sharon, too, shook her head sadly. It seemed there was no solution for them to improve the situation. Nor did I have one. Or rather, I had no intention of stopping it. They were intoxicated with power. Looking down on others. Unafraid to trample on those around them. And by misjudging who to look down upon, they are now on the receiving end. It was only a matter of time before they were crushed by power. What would they do then? If they're as competent as they boasted, they'll manage on their own. Diana. Sharon finally broke into tears. Mom, that's enough, isn't it? Maybe it's time to call Grandpa. Just then, Sharon received a call on her mobile phone. Sharon looked up, wiping her tears to check the notification. Her eyes widened in surprise. Mom. Go ahead. They might have their reasons too. Yes. I encouraged her, and Sharon reluctantly answered the call. A loud voice could be heard from the phone even from where I was. You traitor! Running away as soon as our family is in danger. Aren't you ashamed? I'm not running away. Sharon sounded somewhat indignant. Understandably so. She hasn't run from anyone. Yesterday and today, she's been facing reality. Worrying about her family while choosing to stay with us. Not to ingratiate herself with us, but to stop me. Sharon became more assertive. Mom, do you see now? Judging people superficially is what led to this, right? Don't act like you understand. The voice of Susanna, furious. Sharon, in contrast, was calm. Maybe her suffering has given her something to think about. Why did you have to be so cruel? I wanted to get along with my new family. But you couldn't do that. That woman doesn't fit into our family. Susanna seems to have narrowed down her disdain to me alone. I bit my lip. Yes. I am just an ordinary woman, born into an average family, without notable education, looks, or anything. But someone accepted and loved me for who I am. He was from a prestigious family, and at first, I was intimidated. But eventually, we were drawn to each other and decided to marry. Do you have any regrets? That's all Walker asked. There's no way I would. I can't forget his face when he answered. The warm and reliable profile of him saying he would protect me. Yet, Carter broke his promise so easily. He left for heaven alone, leaving me behind, my dearest. Tell Susanna. What should I tell her? I cut through my self-mockery and said in my usual tone, that I'm giving you a chance. What a proposition. What kind of face I was making. I didn't even know. I'll have Walker come over. Then you can appeal directly that this treatment is unfair. I'd like that. It seems my voice reached without the need for Sharon to mediate. Susanna said with a voice that seemed to put forth her last bit of defiance. getting upset over such a trivial matter and opposing us. It may be trivial, but I don't mind being the focus of attacks and insults. But what about Parker, whose mother-in-law will be a woman with such a character? When will he too start receiving poor treatment? This isn't just about pride. It's a fight of a mother worrying and protecting her child. Susanna seemed not to understand that. The direct confrontation that ensued turned out to be quite pitiful. I'm terribly sorry. For what, exactly, are you apologizing? As soon as Carl entered the room, he apologized deeply. Walker sat on the sofa, observing the couple. Susanna looked down on Carl with disdain. Carl! Won't you bow your head too? It's entirely our fault. He began to sob. I stood beside Walker. Parker and Sharon were not allowed to attend. It would be too cruel a scene for them to witness, Walker decided. Entirely? Walker's eyebrows twitched. Explain specifically. What did you do, and what was wrong? That is... Carl fell silent. It seems he couldn't answer the question. No wonder. They don't truly think they're in the wrong. They're just apologizing to placate Walker, waiting for the storm to pass. Like a child scolded by a teacher at school. So you're bowing your head without even knowing what you did wrong. That's, well... Carl looked helplessly at his wife. Susanna smiled. It's about the oversight of not preparing a seat for Diana. We're truly sorry. An oversight? I raised my voice. I remember. There are no seats for the poor. What are you talking about? She acted as if she didn't understand what was said. I was dumbfounded. Susanna was trying to pretend it didn't happen because Walker wasn't there. How dirty can you get? You're the one with the paranoia. Stop slandering us already. That's enough, Walker said wearily. So you insist it was an oversight? Of course. Susanna answered immediately. Hope was in her eyes. If she could convince Walker, it would be their victory. But in the next moment, he was furious. How far will you go with your lies? I've confirmed your actions with everyone at the venue, not just my grandchildren. Everyone. That's impossible. The light faded from Susanna's eyes, and she collapsed on the spot. Carl, do something. She clung to his husband beside her, but he was just crying. Walker addressed the pitiful couple. If you had truly apologized from the bottom of your hearts, I might have forgiven you. But what about now? Nothing but lies for self-preservation. I'm so appalled I'm at a loss for words. It's not like your son chose a worthless woman. Susanna screamed in rage. Aren't you frustrated? That such a woman would become your son's wife. Do you hate Diana that much? Walker looked more pitiful than angry. Susanna shouted. Yes. I didn't like that woman. So I was mean to her. Just for that, why should I suffer like this? Because that mindset is incompatible with mine. Walker's voice was instructive. I wanted to understand what kind of person Diana is. Saying so, Walker looked at me. I instinctively straightened up. Walker exuded the aura of a sage who had attained enlightenment. Carter wouldn't choose a strange woman. So, there must be charm in this person. I wanted to know that charm by talking. What a waste of time! Susanna scoffed, but he remained calm. Diana is good and hardworking. She raised my grandson alone commendably. Carter's judgment of people was not mistaken. Yes. Exactly. Carl seized the opportunity to cozy up to him. He seemed to be looking for a chance to seek forgiveness. My wife is quite different. Susanna lacks judgment in people. That's why she targeted Diana and Parker. You're cowardly, man. He was speechless. Walker slightly frowned and said, Are you pushing all the blame onto your wife? First off, if that's the case, you're at fault for choosing a woman with no judgment. That's enough! Susanna yelled. All eyes turned to her. Susanna twisted her lips and said, President, you really want to side with Diana, don't you? Of course. Walker nodded. Then, talking is useless. I think so too. When Walker nodded again, Susanna had already turned her back. Carl, let's go. No point in saying anything more. Now, we have to somehow rebuild the company on our own. That's easier said than done. All our clients have left because of the president's pressure. His meek attitude seemed to displease her. She says in an irritated voice, Then we'll find new clients. That's impossible. He was dragged away as he left. Left behind, I sighed. Thank you, Walker. No need. Walker shook his head leisurely. Then, as if to admonish me, he said, You earned my trust through your own strength and actions. And they earned my disappointment with their words and actions. Yes. Walker had not blindly sided with me. It was my actions that gained his trust, to begin with. Meaning, if I were to stray from the path, he wouldn't help me anymore. I'll remember this. I bowed deeply to Walker. The situation of Susanna and her husband's downfall was conveyed through Sharon. She has been staying with us, and since then, she has started to contact her. Sharon, come back home now. You need to help with the business. No, Mom. I'm not coming back. Determination was evident in Sharon's eyes. You want to marry me off to a wealthy family, don't you? You child. It seemed I had hit the mark. Her growl was audible even from here. You've changed. But... It's okay. I smiled reassuringly. Sharon nodded and handed me the phone. Susanna? How dare you let me hear that voice? I'm not talking to you because I want to. I took over the phone to settle things with her. And also out of concern for Sharon. I said in a calm voice, I've decided to forget about your meanness. What? A foolish response came back. I continued, I don't want to be involved with you forever. So, I decided to forget about you. Hating someone is just tiring, and there's no benefit to me. Don't talk pretentiously. She snarled like a carnivore. I won't forget you. I'll hold a grudge against you for life. I understood why Walker didn't accept Susanna's apology. In that chilling voice, Give me back my daughter. She's my son's wife. There's a marriage certificate. Then I'll make them divorce right now. To the shouting Susanna, That's impossible. I said, It's something she should know. Sharon is pregnant. With Parker's child. What? That was all Susanna could say before falling silent. She seemed unsure of how to react. After a pause, Susanna spoke. Her voice trembling. Please, give me back my daughter. I don't want the child in her belly. Are you still saying things like that? I sighed. Looking at Sharon, she was gently caressing her not yet prominently swollen belly. Could she possibly think about abandoning her born child and returning to her parents' home? That's unimaginable. Being a mother herself, how could she not understand? Do you intend to separate Sharon and her child? If she has a child, she won't find another marriage. She was being selfish. Apparently planning to use them for her own convenience. Don't get involved with Sharon anymore. I am her mother. Susanna weakly protested but didn't give up. Give her back. Don't be unreasonable. I'm hanging up now. Wait. The pregnancy, that's a lie. She can't be that. She was panicking. Let me talk to her again. That is. I'll talk to her. Sharon interjected, seeing the situation. She's in a delicate period now. Worrying it might stress her, I ultimately handed over the phone. Mom? Sharon, right? You're lying, aren't you? That woman is lying, right? Mom, it's all true. Sharon said calmly. I'm going to be a mother in this home. So, I can't meet your expectations, and please, don't call me anymore. Her voice carried a definite force. She groaned, troubled. Eventually, her voice became muffled, seemingly crying. Sharon, please. We have no other means. Our house is falling apart. Without it, Carl and I have nowhere to go. Relatives have disowned us. What are we supposed to do? That's something for adults to figure out. Taking back the phone, I said, all of this is a result of your actions. She must take responsibility as an adult. Being punished for looking down on me and Parker just for being a single-parent family. Wait! Her voice was desperate. I silently ended the call. Despite persistent calls thereafter, Sharon, looking exasperated, turned off her mobile phone. Walker was also pleased with Sharon's pregnancy. I wish to be involved with the family this time, truly. Yes, please come to visit our home. Parker replied proudly. Because the house had become too small, moving to a new place in spring was decided. Due to budget constraints, it's a bit far from the station and slightly inconvenient, but it has a large garden. A home where dreams of home gardening and various flowers expand. Since then, Susanna has quieted down significantly. Occasionally, Carl contacts Sharon, but it seems only to vent about the failing company and his grievances towards Susanna. Dad just blames everything on Mom. I wish he'd be a bit more responsible. Yeah, especially now that he's going to be a grandpa. Parker said with a laugh. Sharon smiled too. Seeing their harmonious relationship fills me with contentment. Life in the new home was going smoothly. I quit my job to focus on homemaking. Sharon worked until her belly grew considerably, but is now on leave for childbirth at home. The baby born was a girl. Christina, it's such nice weather. The flowers are beautiful too. Sharon smiled at her, and the baby in her arms smiled back. Christina, named so, resembled her father more. Christina, which do you like more, flowers or Mom? She smiles looking at both. No, she's happy because her mom is beautiful. Don't say such flattering things. Parker made Sharon laugh. Can I hold her too? Yes. I lifted my granddaughter Christina into my arms. She was a tiny life, newly born. Yet, the weight in my arms felt significant. What a good girl. Thanks to you. Sharon's smile had evolved from her once innocent expression to one filled with the intelligence of a mother. Grandpa will be coming over for Christmas. Oh, we need to start preparing then. I handed Christina back to Sharon and stood up. I'll help too. Thank you. Let's see, until Christmas. I glanced at the calendar. It was filled with various entries. Notes about future family plans and work schedules. I felt the presence of the passing time, a testament to our lives inscribed there.